Hi there, my name is Karen, and this is Chris. We're from Kushala Yoga, and this class today will be working with mild to moderate back pain. If your back is in spasm and you're having trouble with basic movements, this class might not be the right one for you. But if you're feeling your back's a bit twingy, sore, it could be lower back or even middle or upper back. We're going to do some movements to help release that, and also some stabilization movements is a preventative measure for future. So in terms of props, what can be helpful is a hard block. If you don't have that, a firm pillow that has about a 6-inch width would be great. And then if you have a bolster, it could be that same pillow or something that you can lie over. And now we're going to begin on our hands and knees. And so make your way up to a tabletop shape. Feel free to put some padding, a blanket underneath your knees if that makes you most comfortable. And now we'll start with child's pose. So take your knees a little bit wider than your hips and bring your toes towards each other and just gradually settle your heels or your hips back to your heels. And then lean your upper body forward. So this movement of flexion at your hips also brings a little bit of space into your lower back. You can have your elbows down to the ground, or you could walk your hands further forward and bring a little bit more room through your back body. Feel free to use the hard block underneath your forehead, or if you're comfortable bringing your forehead right down to the mat, you can do that too. Now we're going to work with our breath to help create some extra space through your back. So breathing in and out through your nose, begin to deepen your breath, and when you start to breathe in, try to breathe down towards your belly, down towards your lower back. And then when you exhale, let the breath just move very slowly out through your nose. So go ahead and inhale down towards your belly, your pelvis, your lower back. And exhale very slowly, releasing the breath. Okay, so let's try a few more like that. And what you might notice when you breathe deeply, that your lower back, the shape of it changes. It responds to the movement of your breath. Okay, one more deep breath. Okay, then lift your head and lift your chest and bring yourself back up to your hands and knees. The hard block can move aside for now. Bring your knees hip-width distance apart. Your hands could be under your shoulders or slightly ahead of your shoulders, but spread your fingers and press down through them. Now as you inhale, draw your shoulders back and away from your ears. And as you exhale, tip your tailbone down, lift your lower belly up, so you're creating a bit of rounding in your lower back. And then as you inhale, come back to a neutral spine, draw your shoulders back again. And then exhale, tailbone down, and lift your lower belly. So let's try about 3 or 4 more like this. This is kind of a special way of doing cat lift and cat tuck, where you're isolating the movement more into your lower back by the movement of your pelvis. So this is a good way to strengthen your core, your lower abdominals, and to give your lower back a bit more space. Okay, so just after you've breathed out next time, when you inhale, try to draw your chest forward, your gaze forward as you roll your shoulders back. And then as you exhale and tip your tailbone down, also lower your head, bring your chin towards your chest. Inhale, lift through your tailbone, lift through the top of your head. And then exhale, lower your tailbone and lower the top of your head. So a few more. This is more of the full expression of cat lift, cat tuck. You're working in a range of motion where you feel no pain. If you do, just make the motion more subtle. Okay, let's go through one more. Okay, now come back to a neutral spine. Again, take your knees a little wider, your toes closer. We're going to head back to child's pose. And just to note as well, if you don't feel good bringing your knees back so far, you can place something to sit on over top of your ankles or calf muscles and keep your hips a little higher. Now as you lean forward this time, bring your arms a little off to the right. And as you lower your chest, you're expanding more through the left side of your torso than the right side. So you can even walk your hand out a little bit further, your left hand out a little bit further if you wish. And then ease your chest down, and your head could come onto your right fist, the back of your right hand, or a block, or the mat. And now as you breathe, try to breathe down towards your belly and the left side of your waist. And when you exhale, let those spaces soften as the breath leaves your body. Okay, a couple more breaths like that. Lift your head and chest and walk your hands across your midline. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So bring your arms over to the left and start to lower your chest. Maybe reach out a little further through your right arm. And as you bring your head down, find a surface your forehead can rest on. So that could be your left fist, the back of your hand, a block, or the mat. And now breathe purposefully to create space towards your lower belly, lower back, and the right side of your waist. And as you exhale, some of that pressure is released. Allow those places to soften. Okay, then gradually lift your head, lift your chest, and bring yourself back up towards your hands and knees again. Okay, now if you have the block, if you can place that between your thighs, this is just going to act as a guide to stabilize your legs and stabilize your core. And then move your hips back a little bit so you can lower your elbows down to the ground, about shoulder width distance apart, with your palms out ahead of you, palms facing down. And then while there's still quite a lot of weight in your legs, draw your shoulders back and away from your ears, and let's try to keep that shape through your upper back, your head, and your neck. Now, even with the block in place, it may be possible to edge your knees back a little bit, so just walking your knees an inch at a time back into the space behind you. And then pause once your knees have moved a few inches back, and hug your inner thighs actively in towards the block, and lift your lower belly to your spine. Now, as you breathe in, as we did with cat lift, cat tuck before, draw your shoulders back. And then as you exhale and squeeze into the block, lift through your lower belly and lower your tailbone. And then inhale, return your pelvis to neutral, shoulders back. And then exhale, squeeze into the block, lower belly up, tailbone down. And so this motion is subtle, but we're just giving our pelvis a little bit of what's called a posterior tilt on the exhalation. So you're giving your lower back a bit of decompressive space as you strengthen your core. Okay, let's do 2 more of these. Then when your pelvis comes back to neutral, walk your knees back enough that you can lower your hips. So the block just kind of finds its way to the ground as well. It'll probably slide up a little bit higher. Okay, now walk your elbows a little further forward so the back bend isn't quite so steep. With your toes untucked, draw your shoulders gently back, and your gaze could be out towards your hands or a little bit beyond. So this is Sphinx pose. And Sphinx pose is a nice way of resetting the shape of your lower back. So often when we're sitting, we're pushing our lower back and actually taking away its natural lumbar curve. So with Sphinx pose, just let your lower back soften down towards the ground. You're using very little of the strength of your postural muscles, your back muscles here. Your arms just working as little props. And if you'd like to add a little stretch through the back of your neck, then bring your chin down towards your chest. And take a few moments to let your head be heavy. Allow the back of your neck to lengthen. And you can keep your head right at center, or if it feels good to take just a little rock from side to side, then you can move the stretch around. Okay, and then bring your head to center. Move your elbows wider so you can lie down more fully and reach your arms behind you with your palms facing your hips. Now we're going to activate our legs a little more. Hug your legs in towards the block. Try to straighten your legs, press down through the tops of your feet, and then lift through your pelvic floor and up through your lower belly. Now the fronts of your shoulders, float them away from the ground so your chest is still on the mat and your head is quite low, but you're using your upper back now. So hug your shoulder blades in and also draw your shoulder blades down your back. And then you can stay as you are, all these actions at work, or you can add a slight extra lift through the center of your chest. And although the visible movement is through your upper body, we're trying to anchor it through the strength of your lower body. Inner thighs in, pelvic floor lifting, lower belly lifting. Okay, so let's breathe in like this one more time. And then as you exhale, soften down, bring your palms by your ribs, curl your toes under. So we're going to push away from the ground. Try first to lift the fronts of your shoulders up so your upper back is toned, and then push away from the mat. Child's pose again, or it can be downward facing dog. So you likely won't need the block for those. Now, if you're moving to child's, you can of course take any option we've done so far. If you're moving into downward facing dog, this is also a nice way to give your back some space. So put a little bend into your knees so your hamstrings have more slack. Push down through the pads of your fingers and try to lift your hips up and back away from your hands. And your shoulders may lift up a little bit, that's okay. Give your head a little rock side to side. And then if there's space, you can gradually straighten out your legs a little more. They do not have to be straight in this pose. I'm just adding a little bit of tension through your back body. And then try to take 2 more deep breaths. And you may find a little bit of softening can happen by drawing your inner shoulder blades slightly down your back. Okay, so 1 more breath in. And then as you exhale, place your knees back down to the mat. Okay, so we're going to continue on our back. So bring your knees forward a little so you can sit down and bring your feet out ahead of you and then lie down on your back. Okay, so once you get onto your back, the next movement we'll take can be done with your hips lifted on a prop. So it could be either the block, it could be a pillow, it could be a bolster. You can also keep your hips on the ground if you have any sense of discomfort in your lower back as we do this. Okay, and so bring your left thigh in towards your chest and then wrap your hands around the front of your left knee and hug your left thigh bone down. Your right foot can be as it is on the ground, or you can stretch your foot forward. Okay, so you're bringing a bit of gentle space up through the back side of your pelvis on the left side and into your lower back. If your hips are lifted up onto a prop, what you may also experience in the pose is a little bit of opening in the front of your right hip. Try to balance the weight from your left to right hip. So maybe you rock just a little left to right and find a point of center. And then lastly, your head can stay on the ground or draw your lower belly down, your chin in towards your chest, and then lift your head up. Okay, 1 more breath. And then if your head is up, bring it down. Place your left foot down and let's trade legs. So bring your right thigh in towards your chest. Take your hands to the front of your right knee and then hug your leg in towards the right side of your ribs. Your left foot can stay on the ground with your knee bent, or you could extend your foot forward any amount. Okay, so by hugging your right thigh bone down, you are pressing your lower back towards the mat, giving your lower back a little bit of room. And there may be some stretch in the front of your left hip too, if your hip flexors are tight. So again, you can stay with your shoulders at rest on the mat, your head at rest on the mat, or preparing for the lift. Lift through your lower belly to your spine, a little lift in your pelvic floor. Bring your chin closer in towards your chest. And then if you choose to lift your head, then take it from there. Your head is lifted, then bring it down and then release your right foot to the ground, your left foot too. And if you've lifted your hips onto a prop, just take that aside and lower your hips back to the mat. Okay, Okay, now we're going to work with a block again, or something that gives your legs, inner thighs some stability. So place the block in between your thighs at an angle of the block that brings your legs about hip width distance apart. And then bring your heels in towards your hips. Tuck your shoulder blades underneath you. And then bring your palms down beside your hips. Okay, so this is going to be one of these subtle movements again. You're not going to move in big ways, at least not at first. So let's just breathe in normally. And then as you exhale, draw your lower belly down towards the mat. Try to press your lower back down towards the mat. And then inhale, relax that action of your abdominals. And then exhale, lower belly down and try to press your lower back down. Let's try that 3 more times, breathing in. And breathing out, toning your abdominals, lower back down. And 2 more. Now we're going to build onto this as a bridge roll. So inhale as you've been doing. As you exhale, lower belly down, lower back down, but lift your tailbone a little bit. And then inhale, bring your tailbone down, relax. And then exhale, lower belly down, tailbone lifts, maybe your lower back lifts. Inhale, set that back down again. Exhale, lower belly down, maybe you lift slowly, but a little bit higher. And so with this next 3 cycles of breath, you can repeat what we're doing or roll further up through your spine. Now the block is in between your thighs to stabilize your legs and also to remind you to use your inner thighs to help keep your pelvis stable, therefore your lower back stable. Okay, 2 more breaths. Okay, now the next time you breathe in and lift your tailbone or lift your hips, let's hold. So hug into the block, hold whatever lift you've created, and keep breathing. So we're emphasizing a bit more sustained work of your back body. Okay, 2 more breaths. And then release your hips back down. The block can go off to the side now. Keep your right foot on the mat, lift your left foot up and cross your left outer heel onto your right thigh. So this is figure 4. You might want to walk your right foot a little closer into the middle of your mat, and then using your left hand, just very gently press your left knee open towards the left. And with your right foot stable, your left hand helping the rotation of your leg, you may want to stay just as you are. If the stretch feels more beneficial for you to lift your right foot up and bring your legs closer into your chest, then you can add that alignment as well. And if you're choosing that, you may want to put your hands around the back of your right leg. So everything being connected when our glutes are tight, that they can also create tension in our lower back muscles. And this kind of stretch, if you are holding some tightness in your lower back, it can be experienced directly or just knowing that opening one is of benefit to the other. Given that, you never want to take things too far, so observe the sensation, breathe into it, make sure that there's space to breathe. Now rest your right foot back to the mat. If you lifted it, do bring your left foot down also. Step your feet a little bit wider than your hips. Move your elbows open in a cactus arm shape, and then tip your knees towards the right. So if your lower back is uncomfortable with any degree of twist, then take your left hand to the front of your left hip and just push your left hip down so your hip doesn't leave the mat at all. There, your lower back's going to be more neutral. If you feel okay letting your left hip lift up a little bit as your knees tip to the side, then you can do that too. Okay, so for this gentle twist or just the rotation of your legs in your hip sockets, let's take 2 more breaths. Okay, and then lift your knees back up to center. Step your feet a little closer. Figure 4 for your right leg now. So lift your right foot up and cross your outer heel to your left thigh. Turn your right knee open. Maybe your hand comes to your inner knee, gently pressing it open. If you feel yourself swiveling towards your right hip, then walk your left foot a little closer to the midline so you can put some extra pressure into it. And then either stay as you are with your left foot down. If it feels beneficial to lift your left foot up, this is going to move the stretch a little bit more to the back of your hip. So you can take that alignment if you like, and maybe your hands come around the back of your left thigh to help sustain it. If you feel that you're still tipped onto one hip, or if that ever happened for you, you could rock a little side to side and just find what is at center, and then pause there. And try to breathe slowly. Okay, 3 more breaths. And then release your feet down to the ground and step your feet a little wider than your hips. Move your elbows open, rest the backs of your hands to the ground, and then tip your knees towards the left. So there's 2 main forms of this. One, that you keep your right hip on the mat. Maybe your right hand comes to the front of your right hip and just presses your hip down. If you feel okay letting your right hip lift up, then this can become also a slight spinal twist. Also, part of the point of this is that you're internally rotating your right leg. Bring your knees slowly back up to center, and then bring your knees in towards your chest. Wrap your arms around your knees. If you'd prefer to take a happy baby pose, take your knees a little wider, lift your heels up. You can grab a hold of your calf muscles, your ankles, or the outer edges of your feet, and then rock from left to right a few times, giving your lower back just a bit of gentle pressure, a bit of a massage. Okay, so our next posture will be Shavasana. If you feel any tightness in your lower back when you stretch out your legs entirely, then a bolster or pillow underneath your knees is a nice way to give your lower back some space. Maybe you put a blanket over top of you, depending on the temperature in your room. And tuck your shoulder blades in, create a little expansion from your hands, from your side bodies. And also try to lengthen out your neck by edging the base of your skull away from the base of your shoulders. Now let's take a deep clearing breath. So inhale slowly in through your nose. Open your mouth, a full exhale. And then let your breath soften as your body softens. Next time you breathe in, make it slower, deeper. Exhale fully. And gently press your feet forward, reach your arms overhead or towards the space behind you. Breathe in deeply once more. Exhale all the way. Okay, then bend your knees, place the soles of your feet down, and roll over towards your right side, fetal pose. And gently press away from the mat and bring yourself up gradually to a comfortable seat. Okay. And once you've come upright, bring your palms together to heart center and soften your eyebrows, your eyelids. Let your thumbs rest at your heart. So thank you for taking this time for the care and attention that your back needs. And in peace, namaste. Thank you.